Hi, everyone. This is Jess, your host of Resilient and Rowdy. I am so honored to have this special guest, Alex Aun. Welcome.
Hey everyone, Alex Aun here. I'm happy to be on the show.
Yeah, for sure. So, Alex, you have a pretty extensive background and you're pretty adamant about putting out good information and like helping people out. Yeah, you're an array of things, and I feel like I'm really impressed with your brain. So, I just thought I would have you on my show to showcase the kind of man, scholar, advisor you are and bless us with some sweet knowledge.
Let's do it.
All right.
Just a brief intro for me. My name is Alex Aun. That's from Lebanon. If you're wondering what it says on my shirt and my hat, AUN is Syrian Lebanese. My family is start off as restaurant owners in South Carolina. I predominantly learned from what I know in business from them, and then they ended up closing shop when I was a lot younger. And I did not have much after I left working with them. And that's what led me into the military. I was like, what am I going to do now? I had no idea what to do. Right after I left my parents' house when I was 17, I wasn't a kid that really put a lot of effort into school. Primarily was failing most of the time in school. Worked for my dad a lot. He's a great man, but he was very hard on me when I was younger.
Yeah.
I also had four other brothers. That's a hard group of people
Wait,
to
there's
feed.
four brothers.
I have four brothers.
Oh, so there's five total.
There's five total of us, and I'm the youngest. And
Wow.
I wouldn't
Okay.
say I'm like more of a black sheep. I just didn't follow the traditional sense of how they wanted me to grow up. My brothers are very astute scholars and professionals in their own array of industries that they're in. And for me, I segued towards being alone and going and figuring it out on my own. So I left at 17 and came into the military. And not only did I work very hard to get where I was to even come into the military, I lost about 76 pounds to come in. I was very overweight my
Oh,
senior year of high school, and I was failing my grades. So only way to change course was to do summer school and also lose the weight. And I did both. And I changed my life, turned it around, and came into the Air Force in 2007. And from there, I spent my time trying my best to be the best that I could be there, and then elevate my business and financial skills. That's taking me to where I am now.
that's amazing. So you came from some really humble beginnings, and the economy crashing was not very kind to a lot of families. So I feel like a lot of folks can relate. But I'm so proud of you for just realizing, hey, I need to get a plan. Like I need to like have some sort of direction. So good for you for but you got it done and you go into the Air Force and you're like, hey, I'm not messing around. I'm here to elevate myself. Whereas some people just getting by is enough. And I like that about you. So, was it really like benefits to military members that like pushed you to take advantage of certain financial programs, or were you just looking to just really build something for yourself? Because I feel like a lot of folks can relate to that, especially if they grew up or were impacted by the recession years ago. So,
Mhm.
definitely just wanted to ask you about that. What was it that kind of also urged you to elevate in that level financially?
I did see my parents struggle a lot growing up after losing the restaurant and losing a lot of money in the money markets because of the collapse in '07. I think they got burned before then as well, financially in the markets. So one of the things that I had going for me was nowhere else to go to figure it out. I was like, well, what are my options? I didn't really excel in school. All my brothers are in the Air Force. So I was like, you know what? Let's go give this a try. And I also had the dream of becoming a Air Force pararescueman. I went through that pipeline, the course 3 times. So it was really a combination of wanting more and I don't know particularly what happened to me. That was a very long time ago where I just made this switch to change, but I had to get a light a fire under my ass to get moving in some direction. What am I going to go do? Stay at the house and play video games all day? Nothing wrong with that, but I had some change inside of me, and I really think it was because I did look at the Air Force Special Operations community as something that I wanted to be a part of, and they weren't going to have me if I didn't rise to that occasion. I had to lose the weight. I did. I had to study to score the grades that I did, and I did. I scored straight A's junior into senior year, and went to summer school. And then in the next year, I'd graduated early and came in. And I will say this: one of the things that I did see was the failure that I had going through that pipeline that changed me. Not only did I fail it, it's something that stuck with me for a long time, that failure. And then I went back again. So that was '07. I went back again in 2014 and failed again at the last day twice. So failure is something that's definitely driven me. I've never really been segued in a negative way by failure. It's just something that's fired me up. Every time I failed, I've just come back. Now, I don't want to do the same thing over and over again, but I definitely have learned from failure to become successful where I'm at, not only with my military endeavors, but also with finance and business. How I got into finance and business, uh, primarily finance off the get go. I didn't start my first company until 2015, but I got into finance pretty early because I remember going over to Korea. That was my first duty station, and I'd see everybody spending their money on everything but investing, right? They were
So
buying Xboxes, PlayStations, TVs, and I understand it's something to keep you busy on your off time, but I wanted change. I saw what that led to. I already didn't have too much of an opportunity on the outside financially. My parents probably weren't going to leave me with anything, and they didn't really teach me or understand finance. They might have understood business. They did very well with the business growing up. It just something had happened, and they ended up losing the business and selling. And I don't really know all the details of that. And I think if I ever asked my father about it, he would be pretty upset just to bring it up. That happens, but I didn't know that yet. I just saw everybody else spending their money on things that I call RRDs, things that rust, rot, and depreciate. Right? RRD spending, your PlayStations, your video games, TVs, that kind of stuff. And I was walking through the PX one day, and I went to the book section and stumbled upon a book called "Personal Finance for Dummies," and I was like, "Wow, I'm a dummy." My wife told me about it. It's probably why you like the color.
I love that it takes a quirky but interesting book like that to really grab your attention. And also, I applaud your self control to not give in to those things like, again, the Xboxes, the PS, whatever number was out that year,
Yeah,
and alcohol and really like trash junk food. Like, at least treat yourself to some Trader Joe's. But no, yeah, I really applaud you for that because it's really tempting and you see it. It's around you. A lot of people who do enter the military, not a lot, majority, honestly. They do not have a savings or not very financially savvy. A lot of people just live paycheck to paycheck in the military. They don't make a whole lot, and then when you add careless spending, it's a little reckless because you should at least put something aside. But yeah, like I said, good for you for just seeing that, kind of being cognizant of it. So you pick up this book, and was it pretty decent like literature? Was it very like easy to comprehend, or were you still scratching your head at things? Did it break it down pretty well for you? Would you'd say?
yeah, that book did break it down for me. Personal Finance for Dummies, and the first thing I did was like, "Oh my God, it's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory!" Like I got the golden ticket, so I bought the book and ran to my nearest like Starbucks, Air Force bases. We have everything. We got a cold store
Yeah.
creamery, we got Starbucks, we got everything. We got a train set at our dining hall and a valet too. But with that, I went to the Starbucks after I bought it, and I remember sitting down and I just got out a highlighter and a pen and I just started writing things down, highlighting things. And at the time, yeah, my financial acumen was low, but I thought at the time it was, and that's what led me to the next book and led me to the next book and the next book. And your level of acumen is based on what's relative to you at the time. And if you went to
Mhm,
school with it, maybe your level is relative to you from what
mhm,
you learned at school. But mine was very low at the time. So I took the time to read that book and apply those skills. And once I found out that there were other ways, you elevate those skills even further. So the skills that are in that book specifically, I think were for beginners, and that's okay.
mhm,
But as time goes on, just like anything else, you start to become, you go from the JV, then you go to varsity, then you go to the pros. I'm not saying that I'm in the pros, but I've been doing this for a very long time. And even when I elevated to the next level, I thought I knew everything. I
mhm.
didn't tell people I knew everything, but I was pretty humbled by the fact that I've learned a lot more and gained a lot more skill than I had before. When I thought that everything I was learning from these original books, these original courses I was taking, I thought that those were gold and that was the end all be all. So to humble yourself and to go to the next level is not something that everybody will experience. They just have to start, right? It's just like with this podcast here. This is my second. In fact, I've done maybe one podcast before. This is my second stream. I did my first stream yesterday, and
Yay.
I'm sure you saw it.
Mhm. Yep, I did. I had to tune in. I was like, "Oh, Alex is talking. I
Mhm.
better listen."
So, what was your first podcast like? What was your first business deal like, or your finance deal? Your lighting is going to get better. Your audio is going to get better. The way you speak is going to get better over time. Same thing goes with anything else that you do. It just start. When's the best time to start? Now. You will regret it if you don't start now. And you're going to say, I'll start weeks from now or a year from now. If you start then, why? What's the difference between starting then and a year before? You will regret it. And I have too.
Fair. Yeah. And you're preaching to the choir. I definitely let my procrastination habits hold me back. I'm not sure whether it was intentional or not, or if it's just like you get so nervous that you just freeze. But the more that I just do and don't overthink it's paid off. Like in some way, shape, or form, you either win or you learn. So procrastination can hold you back, like if that wasn't already obvious, but just like in so many ways. Think of all the missed opportunities that you could have, should have, could have, would have, but you didn't. So it's
Mhm.
just as simple as you said, just start.
In
So,
fact, not to cut you off, but we were talking about the where I started in the military. What
mhm,
I did then when I came in at '07, what I'm doing now is very similar in the special operations community that I could have been doing years ago if I really have just if I would have just believed in myself a little more. Physically, I was there.
yeah,
Physically, I had everything that and more, way more than where I'm at now. I was capable of doing. It just didn't believe in myself, and I didn't take just that little bit more of a step to
yeah.
make
So
sure that I could win.
you were psyching yourself out.
Yeah, there's parts of it for sure that I
Wow.
did.
Okay. And so, what was the reason? So, you mentioned it, and I want my audience to know. So, you went from the Air Force to then the Army. What was that transition like? Why did you switch? Did you want to step up to the big boys league? I don't
Regret, regret minimization. Another saying.
know. Okay.
The youth still. I
Mhm.
had a itch in my gut that if I don't do this, I'll never do it.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me for a very long time that I'd failed something that I put so much into. I lost the weight. I scored the grades. I
Mhm.
was the only one that was running at night. I was the only one that was at the pool for 5 hours a day. I was the only one that was drowning myself. For what? And it didn't work out for me,
Mhm.
but it led me to something greater. But if I didn't take that opportunity to do, and I walked away from a lot. I had started my first company in 2015 after a bad relationship that I had, and I wanted more. I wanted to change, just like I wanted to change in '07 when I came in the first time, but I wanted to change again in 2015. I had
Mhm.
failed in 2014 again to go be a pararescueman, and went through a very horrible relationship. Then in 2015, I went berserk. And when I went berserk, I was doing everything that I could, reading books, waking up in the morning, making my bed, vacuuming all the time. Like it was almost OCD, some of the things that I was doing. It was crazy. I never had a full of clothes. I never had to wash dishes. It looked like some person came to my apartment at the time and said, "It looks like a presidential suite here." And yes, because I wanted to do the small things before I could get to the big things.
Mhm.
I wanted to see how far I could push myself. I was reading 80 to 120 pages a day of books. I was buying books like it was Christmas. Every single day there was another book that came in the mail. By the way, you can buy that. You don't have to buy new books. Go to Amazon for that. Not
Right.
sponsored for Amazon, by the way. Wish it was. Free
So,
books.
would you say that you used that bad breakup, amongst other things, to really be the catalyst of changing yourself and leveling up?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I use that to project me to the next level. But so that's where the mindset came from, was
Right.
really, I think,
Yeah.
around there. So I
Yeah.
had all the physical abilities all the way up till past 2014, but I didn't have the mindset yet. So I had to
Okay.
develop my mindset. And I ended up starting my first company there. It's a 3D printing company. I still own it today. I'm going to be selling 25% of that company soon. I'm just working out the kinks on it right now. But away from business for this. In 2015, I was tied up in Washington State, and I had an amazing network up there of entrepreneurs that I was working with, but I still had that itch inside of me that if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it. So it was, choose, what path do I choose? Do I choose business, or do I choose the next realm and go backwards and do something that I spent a long time training for and something that meant a lot to me? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the Army recruiter and I'm going to go ask to sign up for special forces. And I did. It was very random. Nothing else behind. Social media growing at the time. I was running a channel called Alliance Universal Network. I had social media going. That's another thing I walked away from. I canceled out everything. I thought at the time I was going Jason Bourne, where I had to delete everything
Secret
on my
Squirrel.
social.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I
Yeah.
thought I had to do that. I deleted everything. I cut ties from people I was working with at the time. I came a couple years back and apologized to them that I had walked away. But I did. You know what? I didn't even tell my parents that I came back in. I didn't tell my parents that I came back into the military until after selection for special forces because I didn't want any bridges to go back on. I
Yeah.
didn't want to get on any boats. I didn't want to go and have to lean on someone's shoulder. And I have a good support network. I know everyone doesn't have that, but I always used to lean on my parents and my brothers for some sort of acceptance,
Yeah.
approval,
That's fair to say.
but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to see if I really wanted to do this,
Yeah.
and I did it.
That's amazing. That's honestly like really mind-blowingly impressive. Let me be honest. Wow. But yeah, and look at you now. It's a little frustrating having to start over like your platform because I think I do remember that you mentioned that you thought you had to delete everything. And to be fair, a lot of SF guys, they don't have a big social media presence. That's slowly changing now. It's becoming a little bit more of a norm. But I mean, for safety reasons, yeah, you would think, hey, let me keep it pretty low key. So you had to really make a tough decision, but you stood on it and you also stood on your own, if that's fair to say. And you really just honed in on your mental and emotional strength to be able to make it through selection. So I applaud you for that too. That's amazing.
Let me say, if anyone wants to go in that direction for special forces or any type of special operations, and I'm not trying to bring light to the community. I respect everybody that's in that community so much to allow me to work with them
Mm,
in any capacity whatsoever. But I'm the last guy that I think would be the person that anyone thinks is associated with that type of community. Most of the guys that I work with are amazing people, and they have all the tats. They have the square jaw. You know, I'm not a physical specimen whatsoever, but I know some that are, and some of those guys are heroes in my eyes, even though they don't see themselves as
mhm.
heroes. I look up to those guys a lot when it comes to being a professional in the military and then also an elite member of our military. I look
Right.
up to those guys a lot. So that I'm only saying that to respect them in this conversation.
Yeah, of course. And I think it's pretty neat that you get to work and connect and network with some of the most elite dudes in the army. And y'all aren't just big, tough, strong bodies. Like y'all also have a really good head on your shoulders. Like a lot of y'all are really intelligent in your own ways. So, does sitting in a room and working with fellow men like that, does that also inspire you to do more, to do better, and help each other out in that sense?
A long time I spent in the Air Force, about 10 years plus, and only about 6 years so far. So I have about 16 plus in the military now. I missed out on a lot of the GWAT war with that side of the house. Now, I did deploy with the Air Force, but I was sitting on tarmacs a lot. I did a lot of flyaways. I didn't see war in the same capacity that these men have. So when I'm working with them at work, it's very humbling, and I make sure that they know that I know what they've done for our country and the sacrifices that they've made, either being away from their families or just the years and years. There's some guys in my office that have 15 deployments. I have 7, and half of them are Disneyland deployments in the Air Force. So I have a lot of TDYs or went a lot of places, and I won't dilute my service, but there is a clear difference between guys that have 16 plus years that are been SF the whole time,
Mhm.
or came from 82nd side to came to the SF side, or maybe from the Marine Corps going from infantry over. They have a lot of experience, and I'm very humbled to work with them, and it does make me better
Yeah,
for
I bet.
sure.
I bet. Just I heard Tiger Woods say in a video a few months ago, if you're intimidated, that's your issue. You could either be inspired or intimidated. So the fact that y'all can build a brotherhood amongst so many things, but also help each other get better and improve or just be on top of your game in any way, shape, or form. I feel like that, like adding that to your experience in life is what I feel like is one of the things that really helps elevate you. Like you're constantly trying to do more to improve. I don't know if I know of anyone currently besides you and maybe a few others that carry themselves that way. Y'all are very humble, but there's always some work to be done. And I think that type of like work ethic in itself is just incredibly impressive. You've had some interesting experience before, and you still use that today to inspire you. But would you say there's other kind of things in play pushing you to strive to do more, to be more? Are you like looking to like just retire by 40?
Yeah. There's a good saying, either you program your life or life will program you. I feel like life and also myself, both hand in hand, have programmed me to be on my off time an entrepreneur, and I've just run with that for a very long time. There is a lot of people that excel at amazing things on their off time, like being a father or a mother. Those things are more impressive than anything I do. Raising children, that they have a family. There's many men in my office that have 3 or 4 children. They're in their 40s, but their kids are almost out of the house already.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it goes by
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah, so that's very impressive. Hats off, and let's clap our hands for the mothers and fathers that are out there who
Yeah.
are being good to their family. You don't need to go start a business, and you don't need to go make a whole bunch of money to prove yourself to the world, order yourself. For me personally, it's just something I like to do.
Yeah.
It's almost, a lot of people spend their time going and experiencing life on their off time, whether it be just having friends and going out and going to concerts and going into different countries on their leave, versus what I do most of the time and my wife do, which is we grind
Yeah.
because we enjoy business a lot, but also we're trying to facilitate for things that maybe we didn't have when we were younger. And I found some things that work that do have a different result than the traditional system has told us.
Mhm.
And I believe that if anybody wants to experience that type of endeavor, they can. And it is very rewarding, but it is very challenging at the same time.
Okay.
I've gone through a lot of emotional ups and downs in business. I've gone through a lot of hard times and stressful times where I'm just pulling my hair out just to make things work. I was
Mhm.
doing it all day today for this conversation, all the way up till I was able to hop in the shower and just clean up a little bit and hop on the show with you. But it's worth it. But you have to be ready.
To make those sacrifices and be able to show up consistently,
Hmm.
that's a lot. I feel like that's probably one of the biggest things that a lot of people just struggle with is the consistency. And I guess also, like you mentioned earlier, fear, like
Hmm.
psyching yourself out.
I know it might seem boring. What kind of thing can I learn tonight where I can speak on? I'm
Mhm.
probably going to do that after this conversation again. I did another lesson today, having a customer centric business model.
Mhm.
Yesterday was how to manage stress. The day before that was some. I do one every single day. I'm doing 100 lessons in business, and then they're only 15-second segments on YouTube, and I post them
Yeah.
out on my channel. And I'm sure you've seen them before.
Mhm.
But what I'll do later is I'll make a longer segment explaining in depth all of that. And then I'll go live and I'll talk about for an hour straight or however long it takes to explain that in depth for people so they can understand. So that's where I'm at now. Business for me is something that is just a part of who I am now. And to be honest, I tell a lot of people who I work with specifically in the SF community is that what you do in this job, it translates very well to the outside
Mhm.
when it comes to networking, when it comes to force multiplication,
Mhm.
when it comes to being a Swiss Army knife. That's what we call the SF world. You have people that are hammers, you have people that are scalpels. We're like a multi tool in SF,
Yeah.
right? And also, our job is not just about lifting weights. It's not just like we're going to fly on helicopters all day, wear cool gear, and just look badass. That couldn't be further than the truth.
Yeah.
A true SF guy likes to lift weights, likes to look cool and do awesome stuff. But a true SF guy is a person that can read personalities, read their environment, and be able to immediately exploit the situation for political end goals or political end states or whatever that operation requires. The ability to have a huge amount of emotional intelligence,
Mhm.
self-awareness, self-management, which leads into social awareness and relationship management. How you know yourself and how you interact with others based on how you know yourself and how you can read an environment. That's what makes a true SF guy.
Wow. That's pretty cool. And so, would you say that you already knew how to do that before getting into SF and throughout training and working with peers and stuff? Would you say that those skills improved, or did you solely pick that up during your time in SF so far?
That skill made sense to me in the community. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to do coming into the job was to be able to have that cross-cultural ability to interact with other people from a diverse set of fields and a diverse set of places around the world.
Mhm.
To learn another language isn't easy. Know why you're learning that language is more important and how you can use it, understanding the culture that you're going into, what are the do's and do nots, and how one thing that you say or do could affect so much. So
Yeah.
your position is very important. And listening to the people that are way more experienced than I am rubs off on me. And I know that I have to do the best that I can with where I'm at with limited resources
Mhm.
and work well with others. All those things made sense to me because of business and because of what I wanted out of the military. I wanted to work with others and be on a team. I didn't have friends growing up. I didn't have someone to put my head on. I had my brothers and I had my parents, but I didn't have friends growing up. I didn't have some person I could go to. My team, I could go to those individuals and they would be there for me anytime with anything. And
Yeah.
they would find a solution. It would help me through my problems. And yeah, you have to help yourself, but they would be there for you. And they knew that I would do the same thing for them. That's one thing I really liked. And then also the fact that we have to do so much with so little, pull 40 hats at the same time. We don't always have the resources and funding that everybody else has, which makes us special as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought y'all were kinda like Uncle Sam's, like, favorite.
There are units that have special resources that are allocated to them, but with us, we're spread out and
Oh,
we don't rely on those resources as much. We use those
oh,
resources to train,
okay.
but
Interesting.
when it comes to being alone and being forward on a deployment with others, and I'm not going to speak from some of the experience of some of the guys that have come before me. That's for them to tell if they want. But from what I know of and from my experience, is that we do more with less.
That's that is not an easy feat, and I'm really glad that y'all have that type of bond, and I've heard of it, but you talking about it personally, it makes me feel good that you can, like, 100%, like, rely on that person, no ifs, ands, or buts, and that brotherhood, that ability to show up for each other is, at some points, whether it's just personal or professional, it's life or death, and that's awesome. But then you say that you put your ego aside to be able to learn from these guys. Would you say that's a norm in your community? Whichever one, your professional community and also like your SF community. Would you say that there's people like you that are able to put their ego aside to learn from each other? Is that kind of rare or every so often? Do you ever like butt heads with people?
When I came to a team, I just was quiet. A lot of people thought I was probably a serial killer or something. And where I'm at, as time goes on, you become a little bit more comfortable and they give you a little bit more left and right. That winds up a little bit. But when you're new, it's best to just be quiet. Working with them, it's very special because we all cross train each other in our abilities. So
Mhm.
you have to be willing to learn. And the way you get selected in the first place and get through the pipeline, hopefully, and I know there's some that slip through the cracks. We all hear that anywhere you're at, but a large majority, if not all, have been assessed, selected, and trained, and maybe not trained on everything, but they're trainable. You have the ability to work well on a team, and they should be able to get to a team and go through the same process. Everybody's gone through the same process through assessment, selection, and the pipeline. So now everybody needs to go through the process of being new to a team. And it might have worked in the course with them working on a team with each other, but it is different. They try and mirror it during the portions of training. But when you get to a team, your training starts all over again,
Yeah.
right? You're new, humble yourself, learn from those who have been there before you because they were in your position as well.
Yeah.
Everybody starts over, everybody has a green beret. So everyone, and there's some that come and they're cocky and they get squared away quite quickly
Mm,
by the guys who've been there before. So it's
mhm.
best to just be quiet, know that you're new, and show them what you have to offer.
Yeah.
Don't tell them what you have to offer.
Show them. Yeah. That's why use words when you could just impress them with your talents? That's really good. And I feel like that's probably one of the reasons why you're able to like genuinely show up and learn something and be skilled at it. Because sometimes you get frustrated with yourself or you just let your emotions overpower you when you could just put those things aside and just think logically and rationally and take things one thing at a time. Now, would you say that a lot of your compadres, your teammates, do they also push you to become better to in numerous ways, whether it's team stuff like SF guy stuff, or is it like professionally as a businessman? Do they push you to be the best that you can be in numerous ways, or is it kind of like a silent understanding like
Yeah, they definitely push me in all areas. When I was on a team, before I got hurt, and I can go into that briefly. But when I was on a team, I did experience that push, and that push was only positive, whether it's from the side of a constructive criticism or
mm,
even jokes to see what gets to a person as well. Like
right?
they might want to get under your skin because they want to see, are you a person that they can crack? I was very quiet, and my team was very professional, but also funny. So they
Mhm.
want to see if they can get under my skin. I don't remember if I ever did let them get under my skin.
That's
I
good.
think the team sergeant found out that I had a love for martial arts, and maybe a few of them decided to leave me alone. I gravitated towards my senior a lot because he was a professional fighter,
Oh,
and I had a tremendous amount of experience in Taekwondo and Tang Soo, Korean martial arts, and then Russian martial arts, Ruki Pashni Boy, which is Russian hand-to-hand combat. So I picked that up by training in Korea, and then also personal training with an instructor. And I just enjoyed that kind of stuff. But I also learned a lot from doing martial arts too, is that you have to remain on an even keel. If someone's maybe saying something rude to you or trying to get under your skin, that doesn't mean that you have to let that bother you and physically confront some person. What am I going to do? Physically confront someone? I can tell them that bothers me. If I tell them that it bothers me, I need to also know how to say it too. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And if it got to that point, I believe that I would just said something the right way,
mhm.
but also I know it's a pretty open community to where if you do have a problem with some person, and I've seen it and heard about it, to where you will fix those things quite quickly, or it could turn into something that could be a physical situation, and that's okay. Or
Yeah.
we have a physical job. I know some people in my community have never been punched in the face before, which is very surprising to me. But
Have you
it's
made it
very
this far?
surprising. If you've seen
Okay.
my face, it's definitely been punched in the face a bunch of times. You should see my ears. I have a little bit, but I
Oh.
don't want to segue too far away from the conversation and go down a rabbit hole here. But
Oh, we love rabbit holes, but mentioning you're doing martial arts and stuff, I feel like that has its own really intricate types of teachings. Like all, it's also people assume it's just physical development, but it's both like physical and mental. And like how you're saying that you're taught to not let it get under your skin. It's easy to let it get under your skin. It's almost primitive, but the mental strength and like self-control and willpower that you have to not allow it to bother you is again just next level. So you also applied these martial arts teachings amongst other things into being on a team, but you said you got injured. What happened?
that could even had to have done with martial arts. For many years, I either pushed my body very far for the Air Force to go through courses that didn't come to fruition, and I just kept training. I kept running a lot. I would do a lot of ultras, a lot of triathlons. I still did a lot of martial arts, and I would not really think about some of the preventative medicine that's out there. I didn't really think about stretching all the time and rolling out and doing all this stuff. And a lot of that started to become new, I think, in the mid 2000s, 2000, maybe 12 and after.
Yeah, for sure.
Started rolling out, doing a lot of different stretching. And I was used to stretching for martial arts, but
Okay.
I didn't do a lot of the physical therapy that I probably could have done. And I was also in the water a lot before I came into the army as well. So that's preventative medicine there. But I didn't do anything in the water when I came over to the army. And then also you get older, like, and you go through these courses so much, it starts to break you down. And then martial arts, I'm very left leg dominant. My injury happened to my right leg. And it probably is because especially in the Korean martial arts, you use your legs a lot.
Mhm.
It's your longest weapon. You engage your opponent with it like you're fencing, or you're using it as a boxing, but you're boxing with your legs. You're fencing with your legs essentially. You're going in and out very quickly, not trying to not get your leg trapped. And I wouldn't always pivot my right leg the right way. So I know I was always tearing up the cartilage, the ligaments,
Oof.
and the tissue in my right knee. And I remember going down for a full locker jump for free fall training. And I was going to put my ruck on. And the last time I'd felt this feeling in the back part of my knee was just being in the pool. And I think it was treading water. And I felt this like suction feeling in the back of my knee to where I had to extend my leg. And it felt like it was not it was like a hyper contraction versus a hyper extension. So I felt like I needed, it was like a Charlie horse. And like my leg was like tensing up. So I had to straighten my leg. And as soon as I straightened my leg, I felt the pain start to relieve. And then I was like, I got to stand up. So I stood up with the rock and my leg popped in 3 places. It was like really loud.
Oof.
I was put on crutches and they took the gear off me, that kind of stuff. But I had torn a portion out of my ACL, meniscus, and a slight tear to my MCL. I had construction surgery on all three of the areas, but my meniscus was trapped up underneath my kneecap. So I couldn't extend my knee because the tissues were caught up underneath the knee. So it's like a joint being impinged, like you have something in between the door and you're trying to open it all the way,
Uh-huh.
close it. That was really bad. And that was a little over a year recovery. And I'm still recovering from it now. Patient affected my left side too. So I have to have surgery on the left side as well. And I fought the med board, which was cool. So I'm able to remain in. But
Mm,
my time on a team is probably not going to happen much more. I'm working in our more staff positions now,
yeah.
and I'll move to actually do something that I want to do very soon, being an 18 Echo. I'm a comms guy, and I generally gravitate towards tech.
Mhm.
Going and working in our technology department at one of our battalions is something I'll be doing next. So I'm
Oh,
very excited for that. And I have 4 years left. So it'd be amazing to just go over there, still give the same energy, same work ethic, and also contribute to the teams as if I was still operational on a team.
I'm just really impressed with that mindset that you have. It's very positive and you still hold a lot of value, but I can imagine how rough that recovery is and experiencing that. But just hearing you talk about it, like, how did you get to that type of perspective? Like, how did you stay so or how did you get so positive with it and take another bad situation and just use it as a lesson to, again, just you're leveling up and you're not letting it get to you, or maybe you did but you worked on yourself. Like, how did you get to where you're at with that perspective on it?
I am so busy on my off time that it was just like one thing got in the way, but I was just continuously busy anyways, either on my off time being busy with business. I started to attend school over at Embry-Riddle University for aerospace engineering. I did not continue on with that. I got into flying too when I was injured, so I'm a pilot now. I started doing that. So I just found other things to fill couldn't do, which was physical stuff at the time. So continuing with business, setting other goals. I have a lot of goals to achieve, and they're really ongoing. So it's just never stopped, Jess. I've continued on for a very long time. Nothing's going to stop me.
I feel like you're just continuously learning because there's just so much. I don't know if you've seen the meme, but it's like one guy is stressed out. There's so much to learn. And then the other guy is just like, there's so much to learn. I feel like you're that second guy. Like, you're
Mhm.
excited, you're showing up, and that's half the battle. You mentioned that
Yeah.
earlier, just not procrastinating and just showing up.
I still have a contract to fulfill, and I only have 4 years left.
Yeah.
Why not stick it out for 20 and see what I can do? I came to this community to give value, bring value, just like I do in business, to bring value, give value, and being when I'm in other people's lives.
Mhm.
With this conversation here, I'm here to provide value to your viewers, bring value, give value. And when you do that, it's energy. Think about it. It's like the law of thermodynamics. The first law is the law of conservation. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, it can only be transferred. Elon Musk is a very amazing entrepreneur. Regardless of what you think about him, he is definitely a person that creates a tremendous amount of value. He says you're paid in direct proportion to the difficulty of problems that you solve. If you help enough people get what they want, you can have what you want. So the best thing you can do is provide value, and most likely you will have that energy return. You should have some form of input for all the output that you're putting out. So I figure just work like hell and see what happens, or whether it's at work. I don't want to give anybody the reason to say, "Hey, Alex, like you're slacking at work." I know
Mm.
you do a lot of things on your off time. Where are you at while you're here? And I never gave somebody the reason while I was working either on a team or where I'm working now. to ever question my work ethic at work or based on what it is that I'm doing in my off time that interfering. And I keep everything separate too. I keep my business separated from my professional life. I keep my professional life separated from my business life, my relationship. I keep it
Yeah.
separate for a reason, and
Right.
it works out very well for me. I don't let things bleed in
And that
because
can be
I know
really
there's
hard.
second and third order effects on the personal side based on what it is that I'm doing. I respect
Mhm.
your time, I respect your life,
Yeah.
and if people thought that way about when I do something, does what I do affect other people? And if so, I need to make sure I do the things so I don't interfere and I cause second and third order effects for other people that now they have to clean up after me
Mm.
and it makes a big issue for others.
Yeah.
I do it with everything.
That's awesome. That's really good. I feel like it's just like less drama, less BS, just less of
Mhm,
a headache. So good for you. I feel like I was also taught that it's like, unless you need to get help or you need resources, like you leave your personal things at the door, you show up, do your job, kick ass, take names, and you go home. And I feel like most people, if they were to go on these ventures in some way, shape, or form, some people really slack off. Like anyone can be a shitbag. And
mhm,
that's not great. And I feel like you're very cognizant of what you bring to the table and you're going to show up and you're going to give that. And then, yeah, with you leaving everything at the door, I feel like that makes you more present and able to show up 100% at your job and then your other businesses, your relationship, your family life, your personal life. It's like you've like categorized everything. And that
mhm.
sounds really smart.
I keep it out of my head for sure. I
Mhm.
don't worry about what it is that I'm doing. I just set the goals, I track them, and then I eradicate them.
Mhm.
I have a board that's off to my left. It's like the size of the wall. And I break all of the things that I want to do down. Each business is compartmentalized.
Mm.
Each thing that I'm working on is compartmentalized. And then it works into personal as well. The things that I got to do for myself. But I've had the goal of being a pilot for many years. And CA with the military will fund that as well.
Oh,
They
that's
will
really,
fund you to go get your pilot's license.
I didn't know that. For
And I get
you.
$20,000 a year towards CA. Why
Yeah.
not use it? I use it at the local, it's not too far from me, about 10 minutes away, a
Mhm.
local airfield. And I have some amazing CFIs out there that train me for my pilot license. And there's really no end for that. You can continue to fly and log hours and work into what I'm working into now is my advanced ground instructor and then also private pilot 2 license and then commercial license as well. So if
Oh,
I wanted to gain another skill, whether go fly myself for business or take my wife and go fly with friends and family, or if it's for business, or if I wanted to charge, that's another skill. One of
mm,
the things I talk about in the lessons in business is develop skills, right?
right.
You never know when you can use them, right? And you don't know what somebody else's struggles can be an asset for you, right?
Mhm.
It's a liability for them. You're their asset, and you can become a resource to them. Flying is something that's fun too. It just takes the weight off my shoulders, obviously, and freaking defying gravity,
Mm,
right? Flying's really cool. I got my wife into it as well. She's
mm.
flown some already, and she's going to be working on towards her private pilot license PPL, and see where it goes from there. Um,
That's really
but
cool.
things that I'm doing today, I fly from time to time, maybe sometimes once a week or once every 2 weeks. I try to get a couple flights in, but that's not my primary thing I have to do. I have to prioritize. So the things that I prioritize on my off time are first Whoopee Official. So that's my primary company. That's the Whoopee hoodie. If anyone's seen the Poncho Liner hoodie, and throughout the military, my business partner Mike Batista and I started that company um, about 5.5 years ago now,
Mm.
and it's become a hit with the military and even the civilian community. We've definitely made some waves. I
Oh,
started going with my wife up north, some of the malls, and traveling out a bit. Going north, we usually go south or east. We traveled up to think to like the Charlotte Mall or something like that, and we saw in the Burberry shop a Whoopi stitched jacket. So I also saw it in Germany when I was doing some equipment riding the equipment. Someone has to watch it. I
Mhm.
was the guy who did it. But I was going through Germany and I saw it in one of the stores. I saw the stitch and I know where that comes from. It comes from the punch liner, the whoopee.
Mhm.
Um, so that company, I put a lot of focus in to. We're primarily right now with that company structuring it into where it can be what a hedge fund or just say you're trying to raise money in a way where you're trying to take that business to the next level. There's a lot of
Mhm.
criteria you have to hit before you do that. So I'm finalizing a lot of the things that are required to do, and we're not too far from there. Also signing a lot of deals with bigger outdoor stores. We just recently signed with Shills, it's like Bass Pro Shop, Cabela's style
Okay.
business
That's really cool.
in the Midwest, and it's a pretty awesome store. Yeah, and those people work at night for some odd reason because their email, our email traffic is like 1 a.m. sometimes. So I'm like, man, these people are like me.
Yeah, they're constantly hustling. I was gonna ask you, what's your time management like when you're handling so many things? You said prioritizing, obviously, but it sounds like you work all the time. Yeah.
I do.
I feel like that's also like a part of your drive because I feel like a
Mhm.
lot of people would get burnt out.
It's not for everyone, but it can be a part of it can be for everyone. Anyone can start a business. It's
Mhm.
just making sure you chase one rabbit until you start chasing another one.
Mhm.
And Wobby Official is pretty autonomous now. There's not a lot of work that goes into it other than really packing orders now.
Right.
And now I'm more up and out than I am down and into the company. So we have employees to take care of a large majority of the operations. We have our legal setup, we have our accounting setup, we have our packing setup, we have our management setup, and we have a warehouse, and we can fulfill everything there. So once that happens, really you shouldn't be looking towards doing something else. If you're in business, try and focus on what works. Why start another company? And a lot of people do that. They have the shiny object syndrome. They
Mm.
think they're some serial entrepreneur. They're not. I've never used that term for me. And
Serial.
entrepreneur, there's a lot of people that throw that term out there.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't really know what it means. I would say a person like Richard Branson is like a serial entrepreneur or Elon Musk. And I've
Mhm.
seen it thrown around in the social media community. I think they need to go and do some deep thinking about what that actually is because
Yeah.
being a serial entrepreneur is a very big deal.
Mm.
And even entrepreneurs, even people who are very successful, they don't call themselves entrepreneurs. I call myself an entrepreneur just because it's really a part of who I am now.
Yeah.
Uh, I enjoy doing it. Some person calling themselves a gamer or an influencer or something like that. I really truly do that, and it's embodied who I am. I'm still Alex. I'm just a normal guy, but it's what I like to do. And I would say if you're a doctor or an accountant or a lawyer, it's not who you are, it is what you do. But for me, I would say, yes, I am an active duty soldier. I am by day, on my off time. I am an entrepreneur. And at one time in the future, I won't be a soldier anymore.
Mhm.
Um, I'll always be Alex, but as far as what I do as a professional, I'm an entrepreneur. But and that's what I do. I prioritize things and I break my time management down into I segment it pretty deep. Because what
Mhm.
I do is I take all of these different things that I'm working on and I find out what the hard inquiries are or
Mhm.
the critical task, and I draw all those into a master critical hard inquiry task all the way off to the right. I'm looking at it now, and I have
Mhm.
this tracker on my phones. I have this on my computer, so it's really everywhere I go. And when I finish something, I just check it off. Boom. So I break it all down from all of these things, and then I break it down into the hard inquiries tasking, and then I prioritize those by one, two, three. What's the most important task? And I take it out. If I don't get done with something, I don't let it bother me unless it's
Okay.
super critical.
Right.
But honestly, it's really not. I've learned to manage stress over a period of time, and I've learned that it's not gonna kill you. It's like when I was in the pool and I was training for PJ school or something like what I've done. Calories aren't gonna kill you.
Mhm.
Okay, it's really all in your head. The IRS is going to come kick you on your door. I know people say that. I know people think that, but they're not going to do that. If you owe them money, maybe, but no. If you're a business, there is a lot of leeway in some capacities, but there is a level of acceptance as far as timeliness on things.
Right.
Don't want to wait and just let things just bypass, but not everything's coming at you at once. You
Mm.
really have to know how to manage stress and have time management, but also know how to prioritize those critical tasks into this is immediate, this is something that can wait, and this is something that, yeah, it's bothering me. It also depends on who you are.
Right. I feel like being able to show up in so many ways, I feel like you've already done that work on yourself, but I feel like it keeps you in check of, like you said, the kind of person you are. Like, do I want to be a procrastinator? Do I want to be in the same position as I was last year or 6 months ago? Do I really want to improve, or do I not want it enough if I keep
Mhm.
procrastinating or slacking or avoiding responsibilities, etc.? So it's really good that you're very organized and you're very time efficient. I feel like
I can
it's
add
not
to that in just a second.
yeah.
With being organized, prioritizing, time management, you also have to know what is the juice that you're doing worth the squeeze, right? And I've taken on business models as of a couple months ago that I had to back out of. And I was truly honest with the business partner that I'm working with. And I know he wanted more. And this gentleman, he's in the military with me as well. He's getting
Mhm.
out. He started a $65 million real estate company. And he owns now with $330. So I'm telling you right now, it is possible to start some very, he's an SF guy as well. And he's done some really amazing things because he had a huge why. He has 7 kids. So he has a big why.
Yeah,
And
that's
he
some
knows that the military is not going to be able to sustain being able to take care and give them the life that they want. So if you have a situation like that, it's better to just not focus on like the how, not focus on the what, but the why. And that'll motivate you. And people will see that, and they'll work with you. For example, for me, I have the ability to discern what is something that works for me, what I'm more predisposed or leveraged towards, whether it be some type of business model. I've been in retail for a very long time in clothing, and I'm over it. So when some person approaches me with something maybe that's down that line, I know what my level of involvement would be. I'm not saying I'll say no to some person. I'm not saying that I won't take any percent in the company or actually be a part of it. But I was recently approached for, and this is something I was working on today with my friend Adam. He's an SF guy too. And it's very strange. I was talking about the power of networking yesterday on my talk, the importance of networking. All 3 of these guys that I'm talking about all know each other, which is so strange because I did not meet them at the same time. I met one of them, the one I talked to today, in line as I was doing business and ranting about Bank of America and why I do business with F&B, and he was saying the same thing. And he knows the other guy, James, that I was talking about with the real estate. I feel like these people are following me or converging. That might be the truth. That might be the truth. Maybe the world works in mysterious ways.
yeah.
Maybe it does. But all 3 or 4 of people, actually 5, it's so weird. It shocked me. Even my loan officer for this house knows all of them.
Oh
So
my
they're
gosh,
all
wow.
connected in some way. But it tracks, and sometimes luck and serendipity, they do go hand in hand. And if luck and serendipity decide to give you a chance and pat you on the back, don't miss that opportunity.
Yeah.
And that was an opportunity for me. Exchange contact information. I did the same thing today. I was having breakfast and I was with Adam, same guy, which led me to something else for Jennifer and her company, a
Oh, that's
pop-up shop that she's been looking at doing.
oh,
So
wow.
it's really, opportunities start to find you. This is one of the things that I definitely have to say on this, and this might clear things up. When you start to work on yourself and you're like, hey, my life screwed up, I want to reset, right? You start to open your heart up, open your mind up, open your soul up. You can read books, you can listen to the talks, listen to whatever you have to. Listen to Tony Robbins, listen to Les Brown, listen to some of those people out there, Wayne Dyer. Listen to some of those people, and it might seem crazy, but you need help. You're a shit show and you need help. It's best to just hit that reset button, stop where you're at, hit that reset button, and truly want change. And you start to change, right? You read the books, you start doing the incantation. This is what I had to do, by the way. I had to make my bed.
Yeah.
I had to wash the dishes. I had to fold the clothes. I sometimes had to go buy my books that were on the desk in my living room and square them off because I did things that I did not like to do. And those things made me into the person that I needed to be so that now opportunity found me. Just like my first mentor that I had found was on an airplane. I ran into this guy on an airplane. I talked my way into first class like I try and do every single time. And I did. I was able to sit beside this gentleman. This was right before, this is right after I had just been working on myself, waking up at the same time every day, not hitting the snooze button, making my bed, turning my affirmations on, because your reticular activating system of your mind is at its highest to influence at the first 30 minutes when you wake up and the 30 minutes before you go to sleep. I started to understand how my brain worked. I'd read an incantation that was on the wall that I would be yelling at the top of my lungs because I wanted change. I wanted to be someone different. I wanted what I saw other people experiencing the world. And one thing that frustrates me is when I see some person who's almost, I'm not going to call him a flat out loser. And I don't know if they're on social media just bullshitting it or not. But
No.
when I see those types of people, some guy that's, I'm not going to say being fat's not a bad thing or anything like that, but some big fat loser who's driving around a Maserati, not a Maserati, it's a poor man's rich car. No, I'm just kidding. Driving around a Ferrari or something like that, or being on this boat. I know money's not everything and lifestyle's not everything. But when I
Yeah.
see something like that, and I see some person where everything in this world is literally created for you and you can have as well,
Mhm.
nobody's special. You can have the same things too. And when
Yeah.
I see some person like that driving a nicer car than me or having a nicer house or having a nicer lifestyle, and there's nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5, and there's definitely nothing wrong with being in our United States military. You're here to serve your country. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to just collect a paycheck. But
Yeah.
when I see people like that doing that and having that type of lifestyle, that fucking pisses me off. And that fires me up because I see some person that has something that I can have too. And
Right.
what one person can do, you can do as well. But you have to put the effort in. And I was messed up and I needed help.
Yeah.
If you're a believer, salvation lies within. You must help yourself first before whatever spiritual presence that's there, whatever external circumstances there is going to help you. And that's what
Yeah.
I did. I started working on myself. And what happens is when you do that and you've truly started working on yourself and you start to take the blinders off, the tunnel vision comes away, blinders come open, the shutters are open, low hanging fruit that was right in front of your face the whole time starts to become visible and starts to become where you can reach out to it,
Right.
right? I explained this during climbing. I love to climb. I used to teach climbing in Korea for a little bit. And one of the things that I was told by my instructor, and this is something that goes around, which is to stay in your 3 foot world, right? Where you can reach above you, below you. And everybody's trying to reach, right? Super high, go above where they can reach. When literally you just have to look what's in front of you. There's a hand, there's a jug here, or maybe there's a two-finger pocket here, or maybe there's something you can go left, you can go right. You don't always have to go up. Maybe there's a step right in front of you that you can look at, but you're not seeing it because you're scared. You might fall. You're scared
Yeah.
of heights. You're exhausted, whatever. But if you just look at what is right in front of you, what is available to you now, that you have more than you know inside of you. You have more capabilities than you could ever begin to imagine available to you now, more resources than you can possibly imagine available to you now. And I saw in front of me when I was climbing, right at my knee, a foothold. Raise your foot up and put it on there, and that will project you to the next hold, right? Use your feet. One thing that guys don't like to do in climbing, you'll learn very quickly that climbing is about your legs and sticking the wall and being flexible, being confident, right? looking at what's available to you right now and using the resources that you have in front of you so that you can get to the next level. Not reaching, yeah, they always say a successful person, their reach always exceeds their grasp. But let's be real. The reality is that everything that you need is already available to you. It's here right now. It's in front of you. But the only way you'll ever be able to see it is that you get out of your head. And if you need to reset,
Yeah.
nothing
And work
wrong,
on yourself.
nothing wrong with doing that.
Yeah. And I feel like working on yourself is probably like what is I think like a big influence on it. You mentioned energy earlier, and I feel like if you hadn't worked on yourself, if you just jumped into these things, I feel like you wouldn't carry yourself or have that energy that those like minded people were drawn to. If you're lost, if you're struggling or in your head or like in a rock bottom, like you're not going to attract good things while you're in that kind of space. So I think like working on yourself was one of the best investments that you've, or personally, from what I know, that you've made so far. Because I feel like that is obviously a step in the right direction. But if you avoid these things, if you avoid the work, you're not able to show up in numerous aspects like you do in your life. Um, you wouldn't have the mentality that you do. You wouldn't have that mindset or really good habits instilled in you. You would still be lost. Your intuition might not be on par. Um, and that could lead you to bad business deals or just sketchy people. That's really good that you took the time to just develop yourself, work on yourself, and get better. Because I feel like sometimes you do have to hit a rock bottom to really realize, hey, this isn't what I want to feel. This isn't the kind of life I want to live. I can do better. So let's get out of this rut and be the best kind of person that I can be. And then here you are with all of these numerous different ventures. It's also fun because, like, you mentioned it's enjoyable for you. These are your hobbies. You take pride and you enjoy putting that work. So I think also having that perspective is crucial because if you make it feel like work, it's going to be work. And yes, it's work, it's tedious, it's time consuming, but having a good positive mindset and attitude about it, I feel like, is what draws more like minded people. Um, it makes you just show up the way that you need to, the way
Mhm.
each part, each hobby that you have, each endeavor that you have deserves like the best you. Wow, that's a lot. You do a lot. Do you like to relax? Do you enjoy like a cup of wine? How do you keep yourself on point with all of these things that you juggle?
Yes. My wife and I have been together for a couple years now. Before then, I didn't really do much besides have goals and focus on what it is that I wanted to do. So, as far as off time goes, really, I was just investing in growing companies at the time and working out. Those are the three things that I was super disposed to doing. But when you're involving your life with someone else, you can't externalize all those things onto them. You have to be flexible and see what that person wants to do. And my wife, Jennifer, you know her.
Mhm,
That's what led to our conversation here. You had
mhm,
interviewed her, and I'm pretty sure she said a lot of the same things that I talk about. But with that, is that stress is definitely something that's going to come along with business and investing and just staying focused on things for a very long time. And if you don't take the time to, before, when I started working with Jennifer and her business and getting to know her more and more, I had never walked in another person's shoes before. Even with my prior relationship, I'd never walked in somebody else's shoes, and you have to do that in a relationship. You have to take your hat off, put somebody else's hat off. You have to take your lenses off and put theirs on so you can see from their side, their perspective, right? See what drives them, see what makes them as a person. That's something I've had to do to see from my wife's side and to be symbiotic with her
mhm.
in our personal life and business life as well. So before, I didn't really do much of those things. And then I, at the beginning, expected her to be on the same, not level. I don't expect that. Some people are far beyond me in business, a ton more ahead of me in life and business. I'm a little guy, but um, even with my experience, I tend to externalize that on some people sometimes, even my business partners. I've never walked in their shoes before. I can't take that something that's relative to me and externalize it on them and expect them to work at the same level as I do on things. So fun to me was investing, working out, and making my businesses run and grow. She was attracted to that, yes, the work ethic, those things, and wanting to do more, have more, and be more. But one of the things that she liked from me was that I had a certain spirit about me that she didn't really see from others. I had done at the time martial arts. I really enjoyed doing that on my off time for fun. And then that kind of ended for me because of my leg. I wasn't really able to participate in that stuff anymore. And then this is where it answers your question is that it began to become, we weren't like fighting or anything like that. It just became to be a little much where we're just focusing on business all the time and we're not doing anything for ourselves. So I was like, what do you want to do? So we started finding things that we like to do that are a part of the lifestyle that we want to have one day. So we
Mhm,
started to travel out for business and maybe go to, we love the East. That's where we had a really amazing time for Jennifer's birthday weekend. It
mhm,
was really fun being out near the coast. That's something that she wants to do is go live on the coast and be on boats and do that kind of stuff. And I love
mhm,
the water too. I love being around that type of atmosphere. So
mhm.
that's something that was very relieving for me. We want to get into the Airbnb business, so short-term rentals. So we're examining short-term rentals for fun to go and
Oh,
see places, and we're
mhm,
taking those notes and having fun experiencing the area. So we're doing market research that way. It doesn't always have to be business, but
mhm,
we tend to, like I said, gravitate to those things. We're professionals in that industry, so
mhm.
we take it very seriously. Did we have fun? Was that not a fun weekend? I
Yeah, it
thought it
was
was
a
fun.
really fun weekend.
It
Yeah,
was,
well, it's really cool that you can yes, it's a beach weekend, but you can see the opportunity in
yeah,
whatever you do. It sounds like y'all both work really hard, so it's just nice to hear that you're relaxing, you're within reason, but also just, like, taking care of yourself. Because I feel like sometimes what's that quote in The Shining? "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy."
I haven't
I feel
heard
like
that. So
sometimes
I'll look it up. That sounds like a pretty cool quote.
yeah. Well,
You know,
sometimes
another quote that I've heard:
what?
the chains of habit are too weak to be felt until they're too strong to be broken. When you start developing good habits, this goes back to what we were talking about before, you don't know
Yeah,
you're doing them. If you
right.
develop bad habits, you don't know you're doing them. Those
Yeah,
chains will become part of your lifestyle and they'll become a part of who you are. So
yeah,
honestly, if I want to have the chains that bind me as a person and make me who I am, strong chains, strong roots, right? I want those to be strong and deeply embedded in who I am, right? So that I'm not breakable.
yeah.
The same thing goes with what I do. I create the reason why maybe my time management is the way it is. The businesses that I'm working on right now are the way that they are, and the way I'm able to hold all this together is because it's almost become, like I said before, who I've become. And Jennifer is the same way for her, and we both are that way. We're deeply rooted,
Mhm,
and we love each other very much. But it's because we've worked on the things that we don't like working on, and after you do it and you work on those things that are hard, those difficult taskings or undergoings that you have to do, it's
mhm.
either you do it or you don't. Whether you like it or not doesn't really play a factor. You either
Yeah,
do or don't.
yeah. It's
And
kind
that's
of
where bad habits, they're just going to stick with you. And you're going to have to dig yourself out of a hole later on. So it's best to just do your best to form good habits and create good chains. And before you know it, you won't even know that you're doing it. Now, it's okay to see other people's perspective and be willing to accept someone else, right? If we're just out and about having fun or just focused on business all the time and talking about making money and whatever else that even people think that we actually talk about. We don't talk about all those things. We just want to have a great future. And we're
yeah,
trying to do that now versus later. And I
yeah.
don't want to be 75 working at Walmart. Nothing wrong with that, but that's not for me.
Even if you were to retire, you would definitely keep yourself busy. But no, you're absolutely right. Instilling those habits are like crucial. I'm slowly trying to do that as well. And once you get into that routine, like you said, you don't even realize that you're doing it. And like it's almost like, for me, it's a little addicting. I'm like, wow, I put in the work, I did this, that, and the third, and look at my results. Like I'm gonna keep doing this. Because also, like you, I was lost a couple years ago, and I really had to hone down and take a look in the mirror and realize, hey, I don't like being at rock bottom. I need to get myself out of here. So I love that you've had a handful, more than a handful of, difficult endeavors, but each time you've been able to pull yourself up and still show up in your life, like in some way, shape, or form. But now that you are better, you're really showing up 100% in everything. And I feel like your value, that you bring a lot to the table. But what impresses me the most is that you're willing to share these things. You're willing to talk vulnerably and very humbly about your experience, your background, your endeavors, and you want other people to have a piece of the pie too. That's rare, which is sad to say, but that's, I think, what's so great about you is that you can also see the potential in people that they might not see themselves, but you're able to inspire them and push them and also teach them. Like your social media platform that you have now, y'all, if you're not following Alex already, you're putting this information out there for free with your daily skits, your daily content, your daily advice, stories, and you're on multiple platforms and you're just putting it out there because I feel like, I don't know if you're like cognizant of it, but I feel like the more you invest in the people around you, or at least offer them the good advice, like the quality of life for everyone improves. When everyone is on their A game, it's smooth sailing and you'll be able to like tweak things when you ask for help, when you network. But I feel like again, people helping people out of the goodness of their heart or just because it's the right thing to do, why wouldn't you want someone to also be successful? That's just, it's huge. And I think it's wonderful, among other things, that you're doing that. But I feel like you're helping people not have to go through those difficult parts like you've had to experience. And so you're just like, hey, if you want to show up, if you want to level up, if you want to get better, you want to improve, you want to, step your game up, you want to do these things, like, hey, my name's Alex and I'll help you. That's awesome. So do you enjoy helping people? Is it maybe also a little bit of trying to find more people to network with? Is it a little bit of everything?
Really a little bit of everything. I don't remember who said this, but he said that most of the things that I've learned in life came from people who taught me what not to do. And that's
Mhm.
why I've had some degree of success. I don't really know how the quote goes. There's others. Pascal said, if I seem great, it's because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. Pablo Picasso said, good artists copy, great artists steal. Bruce Lee, really into him, he said, absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, and create what is inherently yours. That's all I've done. So hopefully people can do the same with me. I'm not going to stop doing what it is that I'm doing. And if you want to be a part of this community now or be a part of it later, the people who decide to join me and be a part of Alex on Talks now, like you have yourself, are asking now to be a part of that community versus later. It's like
Yeah.
believe in me now or believe in me later. It's only a certain amount of time before I take this thing and grow it super big. So hop on now and be a part of this. I'm not trying to sell anything. I have nothing to sell anybody. To be honest, like if I was coming in from a position of need, probably my conversation would be that I've had so far with others much different. I have had a degree of success in what I'm doing in my business endeavors and financial endeavors, and that's only going to continue anyways. I'm not going to stop. So I don't have anything to sell anybody, and I've had a tremendous amount of failure, but that doesn't mean I'm going to let you fail.
Right.
So if someone is listening and needs help and they're in the military or they're in the civilian world, and I can't promise you that I'll partner with you in business because I have been approached many times to partner with people from as far as like an investment standpoint or also actual partnership in business, general or limited partnership. And I do have a tremendous amount of stuff stuck in my brain, and that's what my show is about, is to talk about it. My wife actually came up with the name Alex on Talks because a lot of Asian Hispanic people have my last name for some odd reason, and Middle Eastern people as well. So I couldn't find the handle anywhere, and my handle Alex on Talks, that's down, that's all over right now. and in 3 different places, but it's everywhere. I'm on Instagram. I'm on X, which used to be Twitter, Rumble, Kick. I'm live streaming from a lot of different other platforms, TikTok, YouTube, Telegram. Did you know you could use Telegram for live stream? Do that too. So I'm going to be streaming every night in some capacity, or shooting out a short or some business knowledge every day.
It's
And I'm going to
awesome.
be breaking down things and time goes on, longer form content, and then also bringing a lot of other people on the show, business and finance, acumen, Web3 technology, and Bitcoin. I wrote a book on Bitcoin. Bitcoin fixes this and how it fixes the money problem. If anyone's interested in Web3 technology or digital technology, that's something I can speak on proficiently and give essay on. And
Yeah,
maybe
that recently came out, right? Your book recently came out, right?
yes, it did.
And
It
where
did.
is it available for the people?
Right now, it's available on Amazon Direct Publishing. I have it in Kindle format,
Mm,
paperback, and hardcover.
very nice. Okay. That's awesome. You wrote a book and you're putting out daily content for people to just take in. So for
Okay.
my listeners, would you say that you talk a little bit about everything? Is it mostly business? Is it finance? Is it also like personal advice? What can
Yeah.
people expect when you go on like on your
Well,
platforms and share content?
a lot of the things, and I reiterate this when I go into the longer form content, like one of them was how to manage stress, right?
Mm,
How to deal with difficult people, or how to network, how what's the importance of that. All the things that I just listed don't just have to do with business, but your personal life, your professional life. You can take tidbits of the things that I say and use them for any area of your life. It doesn't just have to be business, but majority of the things that I do talk about is business, finance, but I'm very eclectic in business. So if you want to go down the rabbit hole of real estate, we'll go into that. I've been involved in commercial and residential real estate. I still am to this day. We can go into portfolio management when it comes to whatever type of financial instruments you want to use to invest your hard-earned money into. I'm not a financial professional. I can give live and real time footage of my portfolio and how it works. So I'm not some person that's blowing a bunch of smoke, and I can show valid, real data on those things and show you what that timeline looks like. Yeah, I've been doing that since '07. It does take some time to build a strong, eclectic portfolio. I
mhm.
can go into digital assets, but I can also speak from be a human here and talk about. I'm not saying it's all robotic what I'm doing. There's a degree of it that has to be, but I am a human being and I do know what love is like. I've experienced that and I'm in a successful relationship with a very loving wife, or maybe that can translate to having a husband. What does a woman look for in a husband? I can give that advice, I believe. I've been with my wife for several years now, but we are a machine, old machine that's a force to be reckoned with. And I love to show some of the stressors that I've had to go through in a relationship when it has to do with business. If you want to start a business or go into finance or something like that, there's a lot of stress that's going to come along with it. So it can speak from the perspective of having children and owning a business together. But I have people who are my friends that I'll have on the channel who have experience that have 7 kids. For sure. How does he manage that? Be a good husband, manage that, and still run a successful real estate company and further on from there. So it could be that. It could be books that I like, experiences that I've learned from those books and how they apply to your life. I even do books of the day, and I'll break down the book as well for people who are listening. But all the skills that I learned in the military, all of those things, they transition not just to business but personal life as well. So I've learned a lot from the military. I've learned a lot from the people that I've served with primarily. If anything, I believe I can offer a lot in that category that extends to not just business, but personal life as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I'm just really glad that you've put the time in to be the best person that you can be in multiple ways. I think that's just it's very impressive. And I really want to thank you just for letting us get to know you a little more and really listen to all the different lives you've lived. It sounds like you've lived a good full life, but you still want more and you're still working towards more. And I feel like I think we need more people to have that drive because you're the results are endless. So why wouldn't you? So I'm really inspired with just everything that you've shared with us today. We've mentioned that you have this online presence and you're on multiple platforms and you released a book. I think that's really cool. To wrap up, what would you suggest for our audience in order to get to where you are? We've touched on some things, but if you wanted to add anything to that.
Absolutely. Something extends to all things. And this is off the top of my head. I'm not reading on a screen here. I literally have this quote memorized. And it's the right hand man to Warren Buffett. His name is Charlie Munger. Warren Buffett said, if a plane crashes and we're both on it and we're in the water, save Charlie, not me. Right. So he says, I constantly see people rise in life who are not the smartest, sometimes not the most diligent, but they're learning machines. They go to bed a little wiser than they did when they woke up, which is particularly important if you have a long road ahead of you. He said, discharge your duties faithfully and well. Step by step, you get ahead, but not necessarily in fast spurts, but you build discipline by preparing for fast spurts. He said, slug it out 1 inch at a time, day by day. And at the end of the day, if you live long enough, most people get what they deserve. To get what you want, you have to deserve what you want. Remember, the world is not a big enough place and a fast enough place to reward a bunch of undeserving people. So you have to deserve it.
Wow. I think that speaks volumes, especially in this current era of gimme, I want. I think earning and deserving is, how do I say it? I feel like it's just more fulfilling, but it's true. Like you worked for it, so you do deserve it. And here you go. But don't expect it to be handed out to you. I don't think any.
The time of reckoning is coming. And if you're not ready, you don't have to necessarily be ready. I don't want to spook or scare people. It's just that be ready for a kind of a reset and that it's okay. Everyone will be affected, even myself. But now is the best opportunity to change. And now is the best opportunity to dig your heels in and actually do start something new. And that's the way, that's the best time to start is now, not in a week, not 2 weeks, not in a year or so. Just start today.
Yeah.
And also, we are in economic times of uncertainty, and it's okay to be uncertain and not know. But when you don't know and it's uncertain, that's probably the time you need to dig in and say, hey, maybe this is the time to start something new for myself, for my future, for my family, or whatever you're doing, what you do for. Right now is the time. And you can only go up from here. And that's the way I look at it. And there's only, if you're in your late 30s and 40s, this is probably your, I'm not saying, I'm not trying to spook people, but your last chance, because this is a tremendous opportunity and period where you're at the bottom and you can build something that will grow significantly, and you won't regret it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Alex. Where can everybody find you?
At Alex on Talks everywhere.
Yeah.
So you can find me at Alex on Talks on all social media platforms. The two businesses that are primarily on social media platforms that I run currently are Whoopi Official and Peach Tales
Mhm.
dot apparel. So at Whoopi Official on all social media, and then at Peach Tales dot apparel, which is my wife's company, on all social media platforms as well. Those are the businesses. And then the overarching business is Macedon Capital. I'm not too public with that. I can give you an email address if anyone has any questions about business, personal finance, that stuff, and I can assist people in that area. But if you don't want to email me there, feel free to reach out to me at Alex on Talks on all social media platforms, and I will send you a message when I get to it. I know I'm pretty busy, but I do take into consideration people who message me. And if you really want to change and you need some inspiration, I'm here for you.
That's awesome. All right, guys. For my listeners, that is Alex On. I will be sure to link everything in the bio and the episode details. If you're not already following him on social media, definitely give him a follow on all his numerous platforms. And yeah, definitely check out Whoopi. I can attest to that. I got a Whoopi hoodie and it is the coolest thing. It's comfortable, it's wonderful. And for very classy ladies fashion is Peach Tails. Just great quality materials. And these are just two very cool, badass entrepreneurs just killing it. And I think if you want some good advice, definitely check out his socials. Alex, thank you again for coming on my podcast. If y'all would like Alex to come back on again, definitely let me know. Otherwise, give him a follow. He's putting out content daily to help you for free. Okay, I'm there running to Instagram. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. And thank you again, Alex.
Thank you, viewers, and thank you, Jess, for having me on. I really appreciate it, and have a wonderful night.